All right, let's get right into it. We're going to break down a foreclosure case that is, well, it's anything but typical. This is a high-stakes legal battle that started as a fight over a piece of property, but quickly turned into a masterclass on procedural strategy. And more than that, a really stark look at ethical conflict. You see, this isn't just about a house. It's a story about how the very rules designed to make things fair can be twisted and used as weapons.
And that idea really sets the stage. This quote comes directly from the homeowner, Jeremy Bass, in a sworn affidavit. Right there, you can feel the intensity. For him, this wasn't just some legal disagreement over finances. It was a fight against what he believed was the complete perversion of the justice system itself.
So, who are the two central figures in this conflict? On one side, you've got Jeremy Bass. He's the homeowner, he's representing himself, and he's fighting to save his property. And on the other side, Lewis N. Stoddard, the experienced lawyer for the corporate plaintiff that's trying to foreclose. It has all the makings of a classic setup, right? An individual versus a corporation. But as you're about to see, the strategies used here were anything but conventional.
And the stakes, they were incredibly high. We're talking about an estimated $305,000 in home equity. For Jeremy Bass, this is so much more than a house. It's likely his biggest investment, probably the result of years of work, and it's all just hanging in the balance.
Okay, and this is where the whole story pivots in a really fascinating way. The legal fight stopped being just about the property. Suddenly, it became a battle over the conduct of the lawyers themselves. You see, Bass didn't just play defense. He went on the attack, making the very process and the professionalism of his opponent the central issue.
Let's just walk through this timeline to see how fast this all went down. It kicks off on December 4th, 2024. Bass files a motion aimed squarely at the opposing lawyer's conduct. Just over a month later, January 17th, he doubles down with a motion to strike and that explosive affidavit we talked about. But then, look what happens in February. The court labels his defense frivolous and, this is key, refuses to even address his misconduct claims. By March, it's all over. The property's lost. The speed of this collapse is just breathtaking.
Now, to really get what Bass was trying to do, we need to understand a specific legal rule called the safe harbor provision. The easiest way to think about it is like a mandatory heads-up. Before you can ask a judge to punish the other side for a bad legal filing, you have to give them a 21-day warning. It's their chance to fix the mistake. It's designed to be a sort of cooling-off period.
So the normal way to do this is slow. You serve your motion, you wait 21 days, and only after all that time passes can you actually file it with the court. But think about it from Bass's perspective. When you're facing foreclosure, a 21-day delay can feel like a lifetime. It could literally be the difference between keeping your home and losing it. He knew this, and so he chose to play a completely different game. And this is what makes his strategy so interesting. Instead of that standard sanctions motion, Bass filed for judicial admonishment. What he was doing was making a direct appeal to the court's own inherent power to police the lawyers arguing in front of it. He completely bypassed the 21-day delay. But it was a huge gamble. He was putting all his faith in the judge's willingness to step in immediately, and as we already know, that was a gamble that just didn't pay off. So things really boiled over on January 17, 2025. This was the moment Bass unleashed this barrage of filings where he laid out, in meticulous detail, all of his grievances and made direct accusations of serious ethical violations against the opposing counsel. His motion to strike wasn't just some generic complaint. It was a surgical, almost line-by-line dismantling of the plaintiff's arguments. He was basically asking the court to literally remove parts of his opponent's legal filings, arguing they were improper and designed to unfairly influence the judge. He was trying to show the judge, look, this is a pattern of behavior. This isn't a fair fight. And he was very specific. He broke it down into 4 clear categories, pointing to recycled arguments the court had already heard, using inflammatory and prejudicial language, making unsubstantiated claims of financial harm, and using tactics that seemed designed for one purpose, to create procedural roadblocks for someone without a lawyer. It shows a really sophisticated level of strategic thinking.
I mean, listen to this quote from his sworn affidavit. It's just extraordinary. He's not just making a legal argument here. He's making a moral one. He's accusing the opposing counsel of abandoning the core ethics of the entire legal profession. The language is so raw and personal, you can really feel the desperation.
And here you can see just how sophisticated he was. You have to remember, Bass was doing this all on his own. He didn't have a lawyer. But here he is citing the specific professional conduct rules he believed were being violated.
Rules about being honest with the court, about being fair to the other side, and especially about the special care lawyers are supposed to take when they're up against someone representing themselves.
But this wasn't just a battle of legal strategy. It was also a battle of resources. And the financial gap between these two sides was just staggering. And this brings us to the plaintiff's counsel zone strategy, which was incredibly powerful and, according to Bass, deeply controversial. This chart really tells you everything you need to know. On one hand, you have Jeremy Bass scraping together almost $1,400 a month just for housing and storage costs while he's fighting this case. And on the other hand, the plaintiff's lawyer submits a single fee request for almost $10,000. It's the perfect visual of that David versus Goliath dynamic that was at the heart of this entire fight.
And Bass's allegation was that this financial power was essentially being used as a weapon. The accusation? That the corporation was waging a war of attrition, just drowning him in paperwork, using deadlines against him, and leveraging their deep pockets to grind him down until he simply couldn't afford to fight back anymore.
And look, this isn't just one homeowner's complaint. As the legal ethics expert Professor Martin Huang puts it, when lawyers use their deep knowledge of procedure not to find the truth, but just to get a tactical edge, it calls the fairness of the entire legal system into question. So, all of this, the motions, the accusations, the financial pressure, it all leads to this one pivotal moment, the judge's ruling. How the court decided to handle Bass's misconduct allegations would ultimately seal the fate of his home.
And then came the knockout blow. The judge refused to even consider Bass's motions. She ruled that they were procedurally improper. And this created this absolutely devastating catch-22. Bass couldn't get the court to look at the alleged misconduct because of procedure, but his whole argument was that the misconduct itself was preventing him from having a fair procedural fight. The court's decision basically shut down his entire line of argument without ever actually addressing it.
And you can see how that one decision created a complete domino effect. First, the misconduct claims are just ignored. Then, once you take that context away, the court declares Bass's whole defense frivolous. That means his request to pause the case is denied. Then, he gets hit with an order to pay the plaintiff's huge legal bill. And finally, the path is clear for him to lose his home. It's just a direct, devastating chain reaction.
So why are we talking so much about this one case in Idaho? Because it's a perfect window into a much, much bigger problem in our legal system, and that's the crisis in access to justice.
I mean, just think about this number for a second. Jeremy Bass had over $300,000 of equity on the line, and he contacted over 120 law firms and could not find a single one to take his case. If someone with that much at stake can't get a lawyer, what chance does anyone else really have? And it turns out Bass is far from alone. This chart from the National Center for State Courts is staggering. In 75%, 3/4 of civil cases, at least one person is representing themselves. The takeaway is pretty clear. We have a court system that's designed by lawyers, for lawyers, but it's increasingly filled with regular people who are forced to navigate this incredibly complex world all by themselves. Which leaves us with this final, really critical question. The Jeremy Bass case shows us that legal battles are often won or lost, not on who's right or wrong, but on who's better at navigating procedure. So when the rules of the game become the weapon in a system with such a profound imbalance of power and resources, how can we ever really guarantee a truly fair fight?